Everyone, it's your girl Remi, and welcome back to another episode of Self Centered. And today we are going to be talking about the movie that is on everybody's mind, Sinners. But we're not just talking about the plot twist today. From the culture to vampires, it has it all. And we are going to unpack everything the movie brings to light. So today I'm joined by a familiar face to me, but new to you all, Jeff, and we're going to give you our unfiltered takes on the movie. So whether you saw it yourself or you're still waiting to see it, spoiler alert, this one is especially for you. So, hey, Jeff, thanks for joining me today. Why don't you introduce yourself to my audience?
All right. Thank you for having me, Remy. Hey, everybody. I'm Jefferson. Remy and I go way back. We
Yep.
hypothetically knew each other in college, allegedly, but she was my first roommate after I graduated from undergrad.
Mhm.
And it was a time ever since. We like to call our little time as the golden hour. We come together. It's always been great conversations. Always been a time for us to honestly go about hot takes and talk about all types of things. So thank you for bringing me on. I feel like this is what our free time looks like just now on camera.
Knows literally. And thank you for joining me. You always bring the laughter, so I am definitely excited for our conversation. So,
Yeah.
how would you describe how you felt after watching Sinners?
Real talk. I felt empowered.
Really?
I think when it comes to music, all right, so I'm really big with the music, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I also come from a religious background, as you know. And
Yeah.
so just seeing that connection between sort of the blues being devil's music and but also it being a way for Samuel to feel just released and be like his authentic self,
Hmm.
just hit home for me. I think that's something that's very similar in my own life.
Yeah.
And movie plot, he ended up becoming a great blues musician, traveling to Chicago,
Yeah.
Remi's hometown.
You
And so it was cool to just see that like kind of evolution and well, not but see the opportunity for this individual to expand his musical taste but also connect to his ancestral plane. And so I thought that was really powerful, very empowering. I'm not a musician, but I am an appreciator.
No, that's real. And like honestly, I think that is such a special take because I feel like most of the discourse online has been like vampires and like it's kind of the thought about whether there's like a whole sinners like universe. And then like of course everybody came with their like relationship takes. So as you know, I'm not a scary movie person at all. Like, but I am a Michael B. Jordan person.
Oh,
So I was
check
like,
it out.
okay, well, I gotta see the kid, you know, like at his core, he's a phenomenal actor. But I think like when I first saw the poster, I think I saw it like last year. I went to see a movie and I remember seeing the poster up and I remember being like, he's in a movie? Like not like that, but just like what? Like and there's like two of them and I couldn't figure it out. Like the trailer was very ambiguous. Like it could have been anything.
Could have been.
And so, like, watched the movie and I was like, wow, there was just so much to take in. And I only saw it once. I did want to see it a second time, but I only got to see it once. And I felt like there was just so much to unpack there. I felt like my mind was trying to like figure out, like, okay, is this movie about Sammy or is it about the Smokestack twins? Like, I felt like my mind was kind of wanting for more.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of scenes in there where I was just like, wow, I would say the movie is very much unlike anything else that I've seen lately. I feel like this is one of the few movies that I've seen that's not like a remake of something else that I've
Mm-hmm.
already seen or like not a sequel to something that I've already seen. Like this is like a very new story and it's not like it's coming from a book or anything. It's just very fresh new stuff. So I think I guess the word you could say is like refreshed for me.
Mm-hmm.
But there were just so many times that like and even I said like, yeah, I'm not a scary movie person. I I think it was part scary movie, part comedy.
You know that's so funny. Everyone I talk to, everyone I've talked to about the movie always says this was a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking it as a boring comedy. Like I feel like if
Okay.
you are not hip to like pop culture and the black community, you wouldn't find this movie like extremely funny.
Yeah.
I think if you're not aware of those references, some of those that kind of commentary, it's just a maybe slight horror. It's still a really good film, but it may not be as funny. But I
Yeah,
think when
it'll definitely go over your head.
yeah, but then when you're in there, you're in there. Like when Stack comes back alive
Right.
and they're like, Stack, is that you? No, it's Jim Crow. Like
Yeah.
I was bawling. Oh, that was so funny, but like
Yeah.
funny. I've seen the movie twice.
Okay.
And I've seen it in a white theater and I saw it in a black theater.
Okay.
Very two different experiences. And it was so funny. Like when I saw it in the theater in my neighborhood, everyone in the room dying, cackling. So, you hear all the side comments, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, yeah, he wilding, or nah,
Yeah.
they're bugging, or, oh, that couldn't be me. Oh, stupid, why would you let that man into your house? He's on fire. Like, you know what I mean? So seeing that kind of stuff, I'm like, you very much can see the comedy if you're hip to that kind of culture. But if you aren't, like, I so see you viewing this movie as like a thriller horror kind of vibe.
Yeah, I think like it was almost like a slow burn for me because there were moments where I was just like, okay, I know that things are going to go south. And I think like towards the end when Sammy was saying, yeah, it was the best day of my life until the sun went down. And I was like, in hindsight, when I was watching it during the day, the daytime scenes where like we see Sammy, like he's like finishing up his sharecropping and the chores that he has so that he can hang out with his cousins. And like they're taking him around and he's like doing things he probably shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, like watching it all the way through, I was like, wow, everything is so great. Like, where's the scary part? And then the sun goes down. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ryan Coogler. I'm sorry for testing your gates because things got very spooky very quickly. But even then, like you still had like some comedic relief. I think, that scene where you see Remick and the other two vampires come up to the juke joint and they're like, we want to get in. Like, and they start doing their little song. And like everybody except for Stack is like, this is weird. Like, these guys look strange. And Stack is over here bopping to their little tune, like, So I felt like there were moments where, like, definitely, if you're not hip to the culture, there are going to be things that just go over your head. But I think, like, it was very well done where you're not just screaming the entire time. I came home and my entire apartment was dark. Boy, I flicked on every light in the house.
Mhm.
But I'm easily frightened. So I'll say that.
That's
But
fair.
so, of course, Sinners had all of its different like sound bites and stuff. Who
Mhm.
was your favorite character?
Fave? He dealt with Slim.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an alcoholic or whatever, but hear me out. Like, my favorite scene in the movie,
Mhm.
also I think the most important scene, which is like the music scene and
Uh,
the juke joint when Sammy's performing for real and like you get the connection between the ancestral connection when it comes to black folk and music. Like
mhm.
that part was so powerful to me. And like I studied African diaspora studies back in
Yeah.
undergrad. Like that's up my alley with that focus in pop culture and music. That's right
Mhm.
my alley. And so seeing that kind of connection and hearing Delta Slim narrate that sort of historical element was
Mhm.
so fun. And I also think he's so funny. Like
Yes.
from when he is just starts drink, they introduce his character at the train station, and he's like, "Listen, you can give me like you're not paying me more. You're gonna give me $20, maybe tonight."
Yeah.
The other joint is like giving me whatever every Saturday for the last 10 years. They got me going for another 10. They got going for another 10. But all it took was an extra $20 and a cold beer. Now
Mhm.
he on his harmonica talking about pull up to this juke joint. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Listen, but he's such a compelling character because I think it's because he's so real. He was like,
So
"Yeah, show me
real.
that money."
Show me the bread. Show me the bread.
Yeah. So
Show me the bread.
I definitely really liked him. He's a really good actor. I would say my favorite. character. Okay, so I do have two, and maybe I just love their dynamic, but it has to be Smoke and Annie.
Mm,
I think I like the way that Smoke kind of navigates his space.
mm-hmm.
He has like this brooding aura, but at the same time you see there's like a softness to him. So like everybody's scared of this dude. But then he
Yeah.
asks the girl to watch his car at the beginning, and he's like, I'm gonna pay you this much. And she's like, okay. And he was like, no, 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 no,
No.
you need to
Then
talk back to me.
talk to each other.
Yeah. And so
Let's
like
talk
I
about
think
that.
there are moments where like even though Smoke on the surface has this like very tough, like I'm a soldier grr, kind of aura, there are moments where his softness peeks through. So I think
Mm-hmm.
he's a much more complex character than if you were to just like write him off as like
A
he's
part.
like that. Annie, now she's something else. Like
It's
I think
girl.
there's like I what I appreciated about her was like of course she's like the spiritual anchor of the entire movie, but there's also a piece of like I think there's like a very quiet strength about her. And I think there's also like a softness to her that we see when interacting with Smoke. Like it's I felt like that scene where Smoke comes back and we're first introduced to Annie, and
I know it is going to.
yeah, and like you think that it's gonna be this romantic reunion. No, she threatens to cut him.
Yeah, it's all smoke, literally.
Yeah. Like literally like to a degree you're kind of like okay, they're lovers, but like, what's the beef? And it's almost like one of those like situations where it's like I felt like they were so kind of overcome with emotion that like it just came out as like I'm mad at you for leaving me. And it's like actually like I just missed you so much, you know?
No,
But
that scene was super intense. Like that first introduction of Annie.
yeah.
First of all, I was sitting in the theater like, are they cool? There's
Mhm.
beef because the scene starts out with him pulling up to the crib and going to like the baby grave.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, like this is someone he's real close to. Like,
Yeah.
is this his? Whatever. But then they start getting real crazy real fast.
Mhm.
Why you down here? Oh, I'm just here to start my business. What did Chicago run you out the city? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Relax. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm
Like
trying
what
to see you,
yeah.
beloved.
No, literally. Yeah, and I would just like to say that to the people who were saying, I thought that was his mother at first. What are you talking about?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. Before, like the actress that plays her came on scene, like comes into the camera, I thought he was visiting like a mom, a auntie.
Yeah,
Because it just didn't click to me that like the baby grave that he was going to was for like it just
yeah,
didn't click for
yeah,
me at
no,
first.
I get that piece. I think there are people who like saw the interaction between Smoke and Annie, and they were like, that's his mom. And I was like,
Let's
no.
talk about that. Yeah, yeah, y'all need some therapy because
Yeah, I was like,
they firmly had sex in like 10 minutes.
yeah, I was like, I don't know whose mom is interacting with them like that, but alert, alert. That can like that can
That yeah, let's have a greater conversation.
yeah, like we need to have a wider conversation as to why you think that. But I would say like that scene really like laid a very firm foundation as to who these people are. And I think like throughout the movie it was just great to see Annie kind of not she wasn't starved for the limelight, like her and Smoke weren't as like salacious as Stack and Mary, but I think that throughout the movie there's kind of like it goes from like or Annie just practicing like witchcraft, like
Hmm.
the hoodoo, that I think a lot of audience members kind of wrote off at the beginning, but I was like, I'm peaked. I peaked
Hmm.
game. And I think like throughout the movie, she goes from like, oh, just kind of being in the background,
Hmm.
like, yeah, I'm Smoke's girl, to like, no, this is how this is gonna run.
Right.
Like once she gets wind that like, okay,
This is
that
not natural.
yeah, she was like, wait a minute, we need to arm ourselves. This is because Smoke doesn't know what to do. He's
No.
like, by the time they peep that they're vampires, everybody's like, what do we do? And Annie's like, we all got to eat the garlic.
Part.
I was like, dang, that's a lot. you got to have your wooden stakes, like the traditional pieces. So I think she goes from like, oh, just like someone that we kind of write off to someone that's like, hey, we need to make sure that we make it out alive. It really broke my heart when she died because I was like, dang, man.
Nah, the vampires couldn't have her though.
Yeah.
It would have been too OP. Because also with the whole memory sharing thing, like when if they would have had her, just think about all the things that could have came out of that. They would have had access to so much spiritual practice, and like, and it's already a supernatural kind of thing going on. So I thought it was like the best idea to kill her before they can really like get that memory. I know it's so sad, but it needed to happen.
Yeah.
Annie, we miss you.
Yeah. And like thinking about like spiritual practice and like you were saying earlier, how like I think like growing up in the church and how the movie kind of like puts you on this teeter totter of like, okay, there's like organized religion that we see via the church and like Sammy or Preacher Boy. And we then see like the hoodoo practices and how that is woven into the film in such a way where you're like, oh man, there's a huge underpinning of faith, spirituality in the movie. And I think, besides reflecting like real things, real cultural practices, real spiritual practices, I wonder how you felt seeing everything kind of coming together. You kind of started talking about like music and how it can be demonized, so to speak, in the church. So I was wondering if you could say more about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of commentary, right? Think about a lot of Black faith groups. The idea of being close to God can be very strict, right?
Hmm.
And when you start to entertain worldly desires, it's immediately seen as sin, or you want to stray away from God. And you see that motif all throughout the movie. However, I think you get a chance to honestly see the effects of colonialism on the brain, because at the same time that we are disregarding, for example, specific with this example of music, the same reason why we are disregarding it is the same reason why we need to uplift it and dive in deeper. Music, and this leads to why Delta Slim is my favorite character. Like, we brought soul, we
Hmm.
brought kind of energy, that opportunity, the music, beats, choreography, the idea of practice and using song to connect ourselves amongst generations, but connect each other emotionally. Like that's Black. You know what I'm saying? It's the same
Yeah.
way why you can't teach rhythm.
Yeah.
You got it, you don't. And so I feel like comparing that to faith, you're always supposed to have faith. Can't really, it's taboo to question it. And I feel like throughout the movie, you see Sammy like questioning it, not necessarily I like questioning faith, but Preacher Boy, you already know that his lifestyles in the church, odds
Yeah.
are that's the life he's gonna live. But he's like, yo, yeah, people know my daddy, but people know Smoke and Stack a lot more, and that's the energy I'm trying to be on. And you see, like, being able to see that battle within his identity is so powerful, because it's at no point is it actually mutually exclusive. You can you can play blues, you can make music, and still be a devout Christian, be a devout individual. It's not an exclusive concept.
Yeah.
So that's like one big thing when it comes to like spirituality and stuff. But then the next thing is like the ending of the movie when he's praying, and then the vampire's like, they
That, oh
took over
man.
when they took over my land. They were saying the same prayers. Oh, let's talk about that. When I was in the theater, when he starts praying, you know how many people in the room were doing the Our Father? And
Yeah.
I'm like, this. See, they got y'all. They got y'all. And it's so funny because Christianity and Catholicism, all that stuff, is not even a natural Black religion. So it's like this is really a forced mindset on you thinking of, I don't want to say a false sense of comfort, because at the end of the day, generations later, you accept it to be your truth in nature. But you're accepting comfort in the ideas forced upon your people, your descendants, or right, your ancestors, forced upon your ancestors, while also still trying to find comfort in you losing, in this scary situation. Like, you're not even tapping into what is truly your own. It's something that was forced upon, your people, and now you've found comfort.
Yeah, no, that is definitely I think that piece about like, what does it say? What does it say that Christianity in the form that it was, imposed on the enslaved Africans, what does it say that it still persists past liberation, emancipation into the Jim Crow South? And, as someone who grew up Catholic, I grew up saying the Our Father. And I think, the piece about Sammy's looking for a piece of or a sense of comfort, because in that moment, Sammy's gone.
What? Bro.
He's gone. He is in the arms of the head vampire.
Yeah, you done up, bro. That's
Yeah.
you 5 seconds away from meeting God. You might as well get this conversation
Yes.
started.
And so I think, when we think about the church, there is rules and regulations to it. It's an institution.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a piece of like, okay, well, this is the type of music we sing. But I think when you examine the themes of the church music, and I'm speaking like for Catholic hymns,
Mm-hmm.
and how it relates to the blues, there is like a yearning almost, or even like there's like a melancholy to it, where
Mm-hmm.
you're like, in prayer you can be like, wow, like things are so bad, God please help me. And the blues is really just about how terrible things are, and it's an expression of that. So it's not that far-fetched to see how those two come together, or how one came from the other. But I think people demonize things when it isn't as they expected. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this music is taking music that should be for the greater glory of God and applying it to worldly things. And I think that's when people are like,
Whoa,
no.
whoa.
Yeah. And I don't particularly agree with that, but I think that that point was definitely a very interesting one. And so, kind of along those same lines, something else that came up for me in the movie was the idea of like secrets
Mm-hmm.
in the movie, because Sammy's going out with his cousins, and it's a secret that that they're opening this juke joint. He doesn't tell his dad, like, yeah, I'm going with my cousins to do this and that. And like throughout the entire movie, Sammy has this very nice guitar, but we don't know where it comes from. For the entire movie, we don't know where it comes from,
Allegedly.
And then we think about like Stack and Mary's relationship. She confronts him in the train station, like, you left me in the middle of the night. And he's like, hey, 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 keep your
Hey.
voice down. And it's like there's like this overarching theme of like secrecy, like things are being done in the dark. And it's almost like, yeah, like we're living this life during the day, but like once the sun goes down, that's when our truest selves are coming out. And that's when we're doing all the things that maybe we shouldn't be doing.
Right.
And, I think one of the biggest things that I wanted to ask you about was when we find out about Smoke and Stack's father. Like, what were you thinking when you were hearing kind of like a little bit of their backstory?
Yeah. So when you hear, like, when you learn that basically they were abused, and it ultimately led, I think Smoke kills the dad because
Yeah.
he was really heavy on Stack. I was like, like, I get it. I get it. I think if you think about like black folk, especially those who are descendants of slaves, like there's just a lot of anger that is passed down.
Mm-hmm.
And don't even get me started when it comes to black folk and like mental health kind of concepts, right? Like that isn't just a today problem. That's a generational issue that's
Yeah.
been passed down. We're lucky to see the tail end. Well, now going to therapy is the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Versus like at that time of life, there's so much anger within blackness. Like whether it's enslavement, forced migration, poor treatment, and then that's also you're talking Jim Crow South, separate but equal, like was cap,
Yeah.
and so there's just a lot of frustration and all within all of that you can't really express it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I don't excuse the abuse. Like
Yeah.
it's not okay to be beating on your kids senselessly. It probably wasn't something uncommon at that time in life to have experiences like that. It is sad, don't get me wrong, but I think that also set up like why Smoke and Stack are super close.
Yeah.
Like because that's a shared trauma that really nobody else will understand, all the way down to like the literal murder of their father, right?
Yeah.
And so that makes that connection, the connection between them, super strong. And you see that like in the end when Smoke has to kill Stack, he literally can't do it.
Yeah.
He literally can't, and vice versa. When Stack has Smoke on the ropes and he was right there to bite his neck, he couldn't do it. But that's also because of Anne's, also in addition to Anne's mojo.
Yeah.
Shout out. But like,
Annie.
he really couldn't do it, and Smoke couldn't do that to his brother because they ride so deep for each other and they've
Yeah.
experienced so much together. It'll be hard to just take the other one out, especially since they were each other's keeper.
Yeah.
Because my brother's keeper was riding super thick in the movie, and so I never expected one of them to be able to kill the other person.
Yeah. No, I think there's definitely like that theme of brotherhood and I am my brother's keeper is definitely prevalent, especially looking at their relationship. I think the piece about like this kind of inherited trauma that goes from generation to generation. I mean, we hear a lot about it, but I think, seeing it portrayed in art, in a way art is imitating life in some respect. I think, despite living in an area at that time of the United States, and in some regards, even to today, where Black people are so oppressed, I think despite having every right to be angry at everyone and everything, we
Mm-hmm.
see just this overwhelming display of joy in that juke joint. Everyone's like, yeah, man, this is like my last 50 cents that I have for the week or whatever it is. And they're like, I came to have a good time, to have good food
Mm-hmm.
and have drinks and like just like have fun. And it's crazy because I think in addition to the trauma that gets passed down, I think that culture of kicking back gets passed down as well. Because I think like, even thinking about in today's world, like how a lot of Black people find community, it's like, yeah, man, like we find community in each other by like hanging out, like thinking back to college where it's like you had the worst week of your life. You failed your midterm. You slept through like 4 or 5 classes. But hey man, I'm kicking back with my friends today. Like it's Friday night. What's the word? What are the vibes?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a couple things too in there in terms of like it's not just anger, but I think there was just an overwhelming display of joy.
Yeah, no, but it makes sense though, because I mean, we still experience it today. Imagine you know what, like you said, like you had that bad, you've had a long week, you want to go out and have a good time. Like when you do that, you don't want to think about your problems, and so that again, think about what they were experiencing at that time. They stronger than me. I can say that for sure,
Yeah.
right? And it's like I cannot imagine that experiencing the things enslaved folk were experiencing just on a day to day basis. So I understand. You want to spend your last 20 cents and this wooden nickel
Yeah.
just for a beer and just to kiki with your homies. I wouldn't even blame you
Yeah.
because there's a man out there calling you all kind of words, doing all types of things to you and your loved one. 10 minutes or a couple of hours to just feel like a person instead of property.
Yeah. So, in addition, like seeing despite all of the trauma that they're enduring, the entirety of their lives, we see that display of Black joy, and it's like, wow, that's amazing. But I think I also want to talk about the women of Sinners. So, we spoke a little bit about Annie. I think a character who was quite polarizing was Grace. When Remick tells her, like, yeah, man, I have your husband. I know where your daughter is. I think it was Chinese that
Mhm.
spoke to her, and she loses it. She's like, absolutely not. They got my daughter. And, like, she tries to get out to say, like, I need to go get my daughter. And Smoke and everyone's like, bro, you're not going to make it to your daughter. It's not going to happen. And she has that moment where like Smoke is trying to cover her mouth and she's like biting him, like she's fighting. And she says, come in and come and get it. In that moment, I was like,
Stupid.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't have any children, but there was a a part of me that was like, girl, if you thought that you were going to invite those vampires in, you would have been out there with them. That's for sure. She would have been the first to get the wooden stake. Because there's like easily 200 vampires outside.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's like 10 of us in this little wooden shack. Are you nuts?
Honestly, she got me so tight. But there's so many things I can say on that. Like we are all faced with the same. They were all faced with the same situation. All their loved ones are outside, out this place. This juju is right out of town. There's mad vampires on the outside. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they have everyone's shared memories. There was what, like 100 people at that party, and only 10 of them didn't leave when everybody left, and everybody
Yeah.
else became a vampire. And they all share their memories. Like, come on, you don't think they don't know about so and so's cousin, so and so's son, so and so's mom? Like, it's not like everyone that was alive wasn't thinking about that, but it's like there's that essence of control. Again, when folk were enslaved, you was dealing with a lot of shit, a lot of nonsense, a lot of BS,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of foul treatment, and you learn how to hold your tongue or compartmentalize,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I feel like in Grace's perspective, like she doesn't really have that kind of character build up, and so now you have this vampire, who took your partner. And don't get me wrong, I get it. It's really you just watched your partner basically die.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about your daughter, your teenage daughter. Like one parent's already dead, now it's just you. You want to make sure your daughter's good or whatever, but like you're not aware. She wasn't being aware of the damage her emotions was causing because she was allowing her emotions to be in full control. Because in theory, yeah, it's crazy. You want us to stay inside? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one thing these people can't do. You literally just watch somebody get shot 6 times and run like nothing. And y'all don't have any equipment for real to take these vampires out. The
Mm-hmm.
only thing saving you right now is that they can't come into this building if we don't invite them. All we gotta do is wait it out for the sun, and they'll either disperse themselves or whatever. But like the vampire's intent was really trying to get someone on the inside to mess up, and
Yeah.
Grace was the weakest link. She was the
She
weakest
was.
link.
But I think, I think it's a bit unfair to her though, because Smoke couldn't kill his brother. The right thing for him to do was, as soon as he realized that Stack was a vampire, was to dead him right there. And he didn't. And like, to your point, he kind of was leading with his emotions. So I feel like it's a bit of a, I feel like people have been putting a little too much on my girl Grace. Like,
Yes and no, like
would I have, if I were inside the juke joint and I heard her say come in, would I have absolutely lost it? Absolutely yes. Because I'd be like, yeah, we're all dead now. But I also feel like everybody was super emotional. Like even Mary, to an extent, she could have gotten Stat killed talking the way that she was in that train station. So I think not too much like, I'm not saying that what Grace did was right, but not too much on my girl Grace. Not too much. I mean, like, I don't have children, but from the people that I know who have kids, they would do anything for their children. And so the thought of like, my child is in danger, to me, based on what I've heard described about parenting, is like, bro, it's almost like a feral instinct. So I could see her being in a state of like, yeah, like everything's out the window. I don't care nothing about nobody. I'm going to see about my child.
which
Was it?
which is real, but I also feel like with that same notion, I feel like everyone else who had some type of emotional tie, when there was a moment of someone else trying to bring them back to reality, they leaned into that. I feel like when they was telling Grace, yo, like, I understand you're mad, you're scared or whatever, but this is what we need to do. I felt like she just pushed the envelope even harder every time.
Yeah,
Like when they were all at the door, right? And it was like Cornbread trying to get in, and they all talking about whatever was so da da da. And then Reddit comes and is like, well, just let us in. I mean,
hmm,
you know what I mean? Like, everyone gets played too. He makes a comment towards Mary, the only white girl on the inside. Makes
yeah,
a comment towards Annie. Makes a comment. They was trying to get Smoke to come out. You know what I'm saying? To Sammy too. And in that moment, every one of them reacted. But
yeah,
then someone put them in check. And I felt like when you had that moment when you were hit with they were all hit with reality. All right, let me lock in. Let me relax, or let me actually just stay put.
Yeah.
Every time Grace was pushed to quote unquote be in check with the rest of the team, I feel like it pushed her to stray away further. And that's what I'm saying. Like it's that you don't have the character that character development to understand. All right, like there's a time and place to be able to do certain things, but this is not the time and place.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I think every character was definitely tested. I will say this, Remick was really he put his best hitters on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the person who went out the funniest was Cornbread. It's so unserious because he didn't even want to work. He was actually like, bro, like, you get me in trouble. I don't want to be in trouble. He's telling Stack this. And Stack is like, you can make all this money, your wife, woo, 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 woo. And Cornbread is like, nah. And his wife is like, well, how much
Woman just
is it?
money.
Yeah. And then like Cornbread just all he had to do was sit in the front and not let anybody in. And he was like, bro, I literally have to use the bathroom. And my boy must have walked all the way to Florida to go pee.
To pee.
Why were you going that far?
And you don't even know where you at for real. Yeah, that one got me.
Yeah, and then when he came back to the door, he was like, okay, well, let me in. I was like, why?
You're literally the security guard, gang.
Exactly. And then he just like, we're out here playing games instead of doing what we're supposed to be doing. And Delta Sim was like, and
Yeah,
what are
so
we
what's that?
supposed to be doing? And he goes, being kind of one another. I was like, shut the door.
Well, yeah, yeah, he awesome.
Yeah, I was like, no, no, I know we love cornbread, but it's time to shut the door. I don't care who else is out there, shut the door.
Nah,
And then he
the
was
first,
like, give me my money.
bro.
Are you
Also, that's what you
crazy?
no. Let's talk about it. That scene. Got me stupid tight. With
Yeah,
all due respect, at this point, y'all feeling something sus. Yeah, you're not trying to give yourself to him. Da, da, da. They've or at that point with the money, they've already felt like he was a vampire or something different. I would have threw the money on the floor.
yeah,
Like you want, it's not like he even did the job for real. Like the reason why he became a vampire is because he left his post.
yeah, yeah,
And then like movie experience, he was gone for hours or whatever.
yeah.
Because the rest of the party happened before he came back. So like, with all due respect, I would have threw your $10, $20 on the floor. Like take it, because you ain't even do stuff anyways. You know what I'm saying? But then was it Smoke tries to put his whole arm out there, bozo.
Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Now he didn't grab your arm. Okay,
Bought
but
make a meal out of you.
oh man, but that move where Smoke like shot him in the face, that was smooth.
That was fun. I was like, that's clean. He a shooter for real because that was a no hesitation, stupid fast motion.
I was like, I thought Smoke was done for. At that moment, I was like, yeah, he's done.
Nah. Funniest scene is when they thought the dude was killed and they put the body outside. The whole time it was just red wine.
I was like, they did him so dirty.
Yo, imagine being blackout drunk or being mad drunk. You pass out for a few moments and then now you just wake up outside like this, like, oh.
Yeah, and then you try to go back like, yo, open the door, and they're like, what do you mean, let me in?
Whoa, bro.
He went outside. He went outside for real.
He went outside.
Perlene going out the way she did.
She was holding her man down. Her man is not her man.
Oh man, Perlene's character was also top 10. Like,
Shiesty as hell.
yeah, she out here like left her man at home. I was
It was
like,
her introducing herself as married and then him going, "Are you happily married? Watch yourself."
excuse me, why would you say that? You can't say that.
I was like, "What are we doing here right now?"
Now everybody wanted to be grown, and that's why they got done how they got done.
Uh,
Because you should have stayed at home. Not saying that it was their fault, because like no one could ever anticipate that vampires would take over a juke joint. But oh my goodness.
Should have been home with your husband.
Yeah.
Husband we never seen in the.
And he's never gonna know what happened to her. He's like,
That's the crazy part. Like she just disappeared one day. Like I know this is just a movie, but imagine the economic impact of that one night.
yeah.
Most of the enslaved folk in that area was at that juke joint. Imagine all your employees take their day off and never come back.
Yeah.
Like
I think that's why we have the kind of ghost stories that we do. Because like the thought is like, okay, in the real world, what would have happened was they would have all been out partying all night. and the Klan would have came and killed all of them. But before the Klan could get there, the vampires got them. And like that scene where like I don't know if like Remick falls out of the sky or what it is, but he's running from the Choctaw Indians, and he's like, "Let me in, let me in, let me in," and they're like, "Okay." And when I saw that, I was like, "Why would you let anybody in your house that looks like that?" My boy is extra crispy.
Yeah, I was so confused. Like, I get it. But again, it's one of those like comfortability in the whiteness.
Yeah,
Like you can tell they were skeptical about his story when they were at the door. Like
yeah,
those two I guess they were a couple or whatever.
yeah.
They were skeptical about his story. But then he really leaned on to the whiteness, like, oh, they took my wife. It's so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like Damien screaming, my Shayla, please let me in so
Yeah.
I could cry. Bro. Like, I'm sorry. They took your wife, but like can't help you. Like like legit, they couldn't there was nothing these people could have done. First of all, I'm still stuck. And I've seen the movie 3 times at this point. Yes, I've seen it 3 times.
Oh my goodness.
I don't understand why neither one of them questioned why he was like freshly off fire.
Yeah.
He
Uh-huh.
comes out the sky like smoking,
Mm-hmm.
fresh out the oven. And when they opened the door, he was still sizzling off. So I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah,
But
he's
did he
beating.
say anything about like someone setting was that like I felt like he said that at one point whoever was chasing him like had burned up his possessions or like his carriage or whatever it was.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly, but I felt like he like alluded to that. And I think that's why he justified why he was a little extra crispy.
well, like he was basically his excuse as to how he ended up at that door is that like these people were chasing him,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, like they burnt all his possessions, took his wife, but he threw it in there that they were on like some type of train, and that really was the red flag for me because the KKK members that whose house he walked up to, they literally heard that part and was like, "There's no train or tracks for miles from here."
Yeah.
So you as the civilian know that this story is not adding up.
Mm-hmm.
But you gonna sit here and be like, well, I'm sorry, bro. Like it was just there was no the only reason of comfort high key just came down to well, I'm gonna help this man because he's white. Like the story wasn't adding up. Y'all had plans already. There was nothing I was really trying to do.
Yeah.
Respectfully, that couple was getting ready to go try to kill all these black people. Like, y'all, there was nothing y'all was gonna be able to do. Maybe patch him up, but like, there's people looking after him, coming after him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only reason why they was able to brush off the Indians is because the Indians that were hip to what was happening. They were like, "Yo, it's getting dark. We're not trying to
Yeah.
be outside with these them hooligans." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because once it's dark and what Remick can go and come as he pleases,
It's
it's right.
raps, so it makes no sense. But they got what was coming to them. R.I.P. to those to that couple. It was a time I think when it came to sort of that scene and just like really building up that vampire army when it got going.
The last thing that's kind of been on my mind about the movie is so I don't know if you remember this part, but the scene where Remick and the other two kind of join together and they head up to the juke joint and they like sing their little song. That has been stuck in my head since I saw the movie. And I know originally I think it was an Elvis song or like Elvis at least did a rendition of it, but the song is very creepy in the context of the movie, and it's been stuck in my head. And like I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad
Oh, he
thing.
just might.
Maybe
That
Remix
song,
gonna
it
come
was
get me
super
one of these
catchy
days.
though. I'm not gonna lie. That show, I was like, dang. Even though Stack was
Yeah,
like vibing with it when they was like using it to try to get in, I was like, I mean, they are coordinating the little choreo they got when it was like do 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 do. Okay.
no, literally. So I don't know. I thought that was like a creepy but like very interesting thing to put in there. But yeah. So to the audience, I hope you all enjoyed Sinners as much as me and Jeff did. Hopefully you saw it between 1 and 3 times, maybe even more. I know there was a lot we didn't cover, like the format that it was in and how that changed the experience being a movie watcher. So if you get the chance to see it in IMAX, 70 millimeter, or any of the different formats that is supposed to be more immersive, I hope you get that opportunity to. And I hope you enjoyed our hot takes and insight into the movie Sinners. Thank you again, Jeff, so much for bringing your perspective. And I think that was really helpful in directing the conversation. So, yeah, thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all next time. Bye.